What's up guys, my name is Ace, and now that I've had some proper time to sit down with Splitgate 2, I finally managed to dial in my settings to a point where I'm very happy with them, and in today's video, I wanted to share those settings that I landed on, while also explaining what many of these settings do to at least get you on the right track to finding the best settings for you. Now keep in mind, this is primarily focusing on controller settings. I am on PS5 as well. And another thing that needs to be said is, of course, especially when it comes to controller settings, at the end of the day, it comes down to personal preference. And some of you might want completely opposite settings to what I use, and that's totally fine. As I said, this is mainly just designed to get you on the right track and provide some guidance for how to find your best settings, while perhaps providing at least a better baseline to work off of compared to the default settings in the game. Because the default settings, while they were usable, I found, they did feel a little bit off, and I managed to get rid of a lot of that off feeling by adjusting some settings, including one key setting that we'll get into. So, diving right in, let's start it off with video settings, and at least on PS5, at the moment, all we have access to is our field of view, which I have maxed out. 103 isn't too crazy high, and I definitely would recommend increasing that over the default. Next, let's get into input, which is going to be the primary focus of this video. We're not looking at mouse and keyboard settings at all, though. This is all controller settings, and these are the settings that I've landed on. For sensitivity, for me, I like a 4.5 and 4.5. Just for reference, in Black Ops 6, I like a 6.5, 6.5 in that game. So if you have a higher sensitivity than me in Black Ops 6, then maybe you want to go higher than 4.5 in this game, or vice versa if it's lower. Then for our zoom sensitivity multiplier, normally I like dropping this down to like 0.7, 0.75 in most shooters that I play. But in this game, for some reason, I just found that even 0.8 was just too low. So 0.9 is where I like that. So it just means when I aim down sight, I've got a bit more precision, but with all the 3D movement in this game, I still want the ability to track a moving target quite effectively, so I don't want to go too low with this. Next up, for dead zones, your inner dead zone should be as close to 0 as possible without getting stick drift. And this is the type of setting that's more of an objective thing. This isn't based on feel or anything. This is something you absolutely want as low as possible for a more responsive feel. I go with 0.01 just because if I go with 0, I do see a little bit of stick drift. Not much, but a tiny amount. So I just go with 0.01. Then for your outer dead zone, there is some confusion surrounding what this is. Based on all my testing, this is how far you have to move your stick before the acceleration starts kicking in. So if you're below that value, you can move your aim around and everything. It's not like you've got no movement out of it, but you're not going to be accelerating very quickly. Whereas the moment you get outside of that, now the acceleration can kick in. For me, I just found 0.1 seemed to be the best after playing around with higher values, lower values. I tried going to the maximum as well as the minimum, and 0.1 is just what feels right for me. Then let's talk about response curve a little bit. In this game, we only have two response curves. We have linear and exponential. And linear just means there's a one-to-one input, whereas exponential is comparable to the standard response curve in Call of Duty. And I know I'm going to be referring back to Call of Duty often. That's just because I'm primarily a Call of Duty channel, so most of my audience is here for Call of Duty. But exponential means the more you move your stick, the faster your turn speed will accelerate, up to a limit, of course. Now, I don't play inverted, most of you guys won't, but some of you do play inverted, so if you do, make sure you select these options. And now let's get into probably one of the more controversial settings we'll see here. This is your acceleration type. After playing around with both Axial and Radial, I've landed on Axial. It just feels better for me. There's good arguments, at least on paper, as to why Radial would feel better, but Axial to me is what feels best. So that's why I'm sticking with this. This one is going to be definitely preference-based. I would recommend playing around with both of these for yourself to see what feels better for you in your hands. Theoretically, Radial should give you a little more fine control over like diagonal movements with your aim, whereas Axial allows you to stay on plane a little bit more effectively. And I know this is a 3D shooter with jetpacks and everything, but even with that in mind, I find Axial is just working better for me. So that's why this is the setting I personally landed on. And now let's get into what I consider to be the most important setting here. This is the setting that changed everything for me as far as the feel of my aim, and this is what eliminated that really strange off feeling with the default settings. This is the acceleration time. With this setting, the higher the value, the longer you have to wait before acceleration kicks in when you move your stick all the way to the side, for instance. So if you want to turn around really quickly, having a really high acceleration time won't allow you to do that because it's going to take a while for the acceleration to even start. Whereas if you take it way too low and have like a 0 acceleration time, then at that point, it can be really hard to control finer movements with your aim because you might want to try to make a fine movement, but you're suddenly accelerating when you don't want to be accelerating with your aim. And in my experience, the default value with this was set just too high. And I played around with this value a lot because it does make such a big difference. And the value that I've landed on is 0.2. This is the value that feels best for me as far as being able to spin around quite quickly while still maintaining a good amount of control when I want to make those fine movements. Now again, play around with that value for yourself, but I suspect for most of you watching this video, the default value is going to be too high and you'll want to lower this value compared to the default. But then after that, let's look at our acceleration maximum speed. So this is how fast your character is going to be spinning around when you have maximum stick deflection relative to your horizontal and vertical sensitivity values. So basically, how quickly are you able to spin once the acceleration has taken place? So after that acceleration time, and once you have moved your stick outside of the outer dead zone. And by default, I believe this was set to 2.5. For me, 3 feels a little bit better. 2.5 felt just a little bit on the slow side. Once again, I wasn't able to spin around and react to somebody behind me quite as quickly with the default setting. And especially when you hear somebody drop a portal behind you, for instance, typically you want to be turning around because he's probably trying to shoot you in the back or flank behind you. And 3 just felt really nice for me. Any higher than that, and for me at least, it felt a little bit too fast. So 3 was right on the money for me. And those are the values that I landed on. Now, let's talk about aim assist a little bit. By default, aim assist strength is 1, but you can lower this and even turn it all the way off if you want on controller. In this game, the aim assist isn't extremely strong. I can just show you really quick here against a bot what the aim assist does. There is rotational aim assist, just like in Call of Duty. So as long as you're in that bubble, you can see that it rotates your character, but not quite to the same extreme that you would see in Call of Duty, even on maximum strength. There is some rotation. It helps you kind of stay in the general zone of your target, but it's not going to be like locking onto the center of your target by any means. And then on top of that, there's also the aim assist slowdown. So if you're just sweeping your aim across, you can see how it slows down. And if I'm going full acceleration, you can see it almost stops my aim in its tracks as I'm sweeping over the target. So that's how the aim assist works in this game. It's fairly basic, not extremely strong in my experience so far, and therefore I leave it at 1. It feels pretty good at 1. For some of you guys, you might want to lower that value, and that's totally fine, but I don't think there's any issue here just leaving it at 1 if that feels right for you. Then for auto sprint and auto jetpack, I just left those checked, but I do disable vibration in pretty much any FPS game that I play. I just find it to be an unnecessary distraction. And there we go. That's going to wrap it up for the input settings, and everything else I just leave pretty much defaults, or you can just adjust it to your liking. It's pretty straightforward. There's really nothing that I need to get into when it comes to any of the additional settings. I would recommend looking into some color correction settings because the game might just look a little bit better for you. It might be easier to spot enemies, for instance, using one of these color correction settings or adjusting some of these settings manually. But those are all things that you can adjust for yourself, and they require no real explanation. And there we have it. That's going to wrap it up today's video on the best settings that I've been able to find so far with Splitgate 2. I am quite confident in these. I have spent a lot of time tweaking and tuning every little setting, and I suspect these will be the settings I'll be sticking with for the foreseeable future unless we get more settings added as time goes on. And with that, I'm just curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. What are some of the key settings that you have found that have helped the most for you when it comes to your aiming in Splitgate 2? Were you like me? Did you find that acceleration time setting was just so important and made such a big difference? Or maybe it was another setting that helped you a bunch? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.